Sorry, it's one of those interactive ones. A question for you to start. I feel like I need to apologize, because I do. But in our first story, the Old Testament story, you get this event, and it's sometimes perceived as the Trinity or maybe just three angels or something of the divine. But Abraham hosts these visitors, these strange men that come out of nowhere, and he hosts them with great hospitality. He feeds them. He readies a place for them to rest. He does everything that you're supposed to do with a stranger in your midst. Now, this is slightly hearkened back to in the gospel reading when Jesus talks about the towns that don't welcome the apostles getting a worse judgment than on Sodom and Gomorrah. Their great sin in hospitality to the angels that visited, unlike Abraham, who manages to do so. But then it moves from Abraham to Sarah. Now, God had long ago made a promise to Abram and Sarai that they would indeed have a child, the firstborn child, the special one that everything was going to work through. And Abraham hosted with great hospitality God when God arrived. If he hadn't, would Sarah have still had the child Isaac? What do you think?
Yes.
Yes? Why? Because God had already said so. Abraham was already going to have Isaac, regardless of how he acted toward those three that day. But thanks be to God, he chose the faithful way. Jesus looks out on this crowd before him, and he has compassion on them. He has pity on them. He's moved. You might have heard this before. The heart of compassion and pity and feelings was not rooted in what we think of it as the heart today or even the mind. It was rooted in the bowels, butterflies in your tummy, something that kind of made you physically ache and uncomfortable. You know that feeling. You've had it before. It's not always before something bad, but it's always before something that is of great importance and great meaning. This is Jesus' reaction when he sees the lost sheep of the house of Israel, because they are like, as he says, sheep without a shepherd. Now, shepherd is a term and a word that we use a lot in the church. My title here in this place, pastor, is actually derived from the word shepherd. But it's not inherent to the role of pastor to be the only shepherd in a place. If you notice, Jesus, the great shepherd, gathers his 12 apostles, his 12 disciples, and he sends them out. Why? Because that compassion moved him. He saw these people harassed and wearied, like sheep without a shepherd. And so he sends to them shepherds. And fundamentally, what do shepherds do for sheep? Protect them, what else? Guide them, what else? Feed them, what else? Keep them together, what else? Shave them, what else? That was coming next. Well, they do everything for the sheep except chew the grass, and I'm not convinced that sometimes they don't have to do that for the sheep. Have you ever been around sheep?
Yes.
They are not bright creatures. Now, it's not that they can't live without a shepherd, but they just do a terrible job at it, even in the wild. And that's what Jesus sees of the people, of people lost and harassed and wearied, who just need this shepherding love, this all-encompassing, all-inclusive shepherding care. There's an island, a large island, just off the southeast coast of the continent of Africa called Madagascar. If you've only seen the cartoon version, there are people there too. There's a group of people called the Malagasy. And believe it or not, they comprise one of the largest Lutheran churches in the world. There's a lot of Lutherans in Madagascar. The Malagasy Lutheran Church. And the Malagasy Lutheran Church has pastors, and pastor means shepherd, but they've actually kind of broken that word off to just mean its own thing. So they still say the word pastor that they received from the missionaries, but that kind of just means the person that works in this role. Then they have another group of people, the Mpiandri. And I'm sure I am saying that absolutely right. Every time there's a lone M before another consonant. But the Mpiandri literally means shepherd in the Malagasy language. And the church there along with ordaining pastors and along with having some deacons, also commissions scores and scores of mpiandri, shepherds, to be sent out. And these shepherds of the Malagasy Lutheran Church are especially trained to care for people, to pray for people, and to get people what they need, like a shepherd does for sheep. And they're sent out along the roads and into the towns and villages and wherever they go, and they find people and they treat them. If they're hungry, they give them food. If they have a demon, they get rid of the demon. If they're suffering medically, they treat them as best they can. If they're suffering spiritually, they pray for them and give them the word of God. And if it's too bad for what they can do in the field, they bring them to a place called a Toby. Some of you might be able to remember that. Now, a Toby is a little bit more of a permanent field hospital, if you will, of the church. And the mpiandri bring all the people who can't be quite cared for out in the field to the Toby. And at the Toby, there are doctors to treat the sick. There are mental health professionals to treat those suffering from mental illness. There are ways in which people can be educated if that's their struggle, or people can be fed if they have no food. Or again, if there's a demon, the demon can be cast out. Why do I keep bringing that up? I think because there's a place in their understanding for evil that's included in holistic care that Jesus talks about in the gospel that maybe we sometimes miss when it comes to being a true and good shepherd to the world, being mpiandris ourselves out there. What are the things Jesus tells his disciples to do on the road? You can look at your bulletin. What are some of those things? Cast out demons. Cure sickness. Feed. What else? What else? Don't take money. But yeah, what are the action things? What are they supposed to do? Cure demons. Feed. What else? Sick. No. What are they doing for the people? Raise the dead. I love it. What else was that? So again, that's kind of the sick too, but it's also spiritual in the time of Jesus. And it's spiritual for the Malagasy Lutheran Church too. They don't draw a firm line between spiritual and otherwise things. I think that would make most of us uncomfortable, and probably for good reason. You can't answer this if you were in the morning Bible study, but because we covered this a little bit. Are all of these things the same thing? Why do bad things happen to people? Why does evil overtake them? Why do they get hungry? Why do they get sick? Why do they die?
Sometimes God has to get our attention straight away.
Could be. And God can work through mysterious ways, but why do these things happen?
Free will. We're human.
Okay, so we have sin. Now, here's where I'm going to say that we swing back and forth on this for a long time, centuries and centuries. If someone got sick, why did they get sick? That you did something wrong. Well, you should shake your head no, Toby, because that's not right. In fact, Jesus even talks about this in the gospel. Remember, there was that son of the parents who was born blind, and they come up and ask him, who sinned to make this happen? And he says, well, neither he nor the parents sinned. So are all these things the same? Why not? We need to go from nonverbal to verbal communication.
We don't make ourselves sick.
We don't, well, some people do. Does anyone remember the pandemic? Okay. You remember how there was those people out there that didn't do anything to not get COVID? In fact, it seemed like they were being extra dirty on purpose to prove a point. And some of those folks got COVID. And I think you can say they played a part in that. And they went to the hospital. And there were other people who, my goodness, might as well have just moved into a biodome. I mean, sanitized dirt and everything else around them, didn't let anyone get in within 12 feet of them, didn't even talk on the phone because it might come through the wires. And you know what happened? Some of those people got sick too. And so for one group, it's kind of their fault, or maybe all their fault. And for one group, it's not their fault. And guess what? They both got sick. Now, they both went to the hospital. And what did the doctor do for the one who caused it on themselves? Treated them. And what did the doctor do for the one who had nothing to do with the reason they got sick? This is an important distinction, right? All of these things do have something in common. And the Piandri get it, and we don't, I think, because of our history here in the West of automatically going to, if something bad happened, you did something. But then we've swung all the way in the other direction to say that there are all these things that aren't good, but they're just kind of happenstance, I guess. Or they have nothing to do with anything greater at work in the world or anything wrong. They're just, hurricanes just happen. Well, it's not because the city's evil. But it also doesn't mean there's no moral value to the bad in the world, too. This is what we have trouble with. All of this is bad. Right? Okay. Now you may chip in. What's another way we could describe all of these things?
Fall short of the glory of God.
Do all these things fall short of the glory of God? Will any of these things be present in the age to come when Christ saves all and the world is made new?
No.
So there's something wrong with them. They do have a moral value. They cause suffering and pain. They cause dread. They cause rupture. But sometimes we've gotten so afraid of saying that something that's natural can be morally bad because we don't want to put judgment on the person. And sometimes I think that leaves us in a worse off spot. Ask someone with cancer if it's evil. They understand it. Doesn't mean they had anything to do with it. It's an evil in their life. Or any of us who have lost a loved one. There's just something not right about it, right? Or any time that we see the people go hungry, or any time that we see them plagued by disease, us or others, or any time that we just sort of feel this indescribable, if we don't want to call it demons, I get that, that's fine, but this indescribable kind of push of some sort of evil that just is out there. It all falls short of the glory of God. And the Piandri, they're there for all of it. And so are the disciples Jesus sends out. And they don't have to break it into categories. Why? Because they're not judging anyone. That's not the purpose to answer that question. They say, are you dealing with something that falls short of the glory of God? And I want to help. Because that's what I've been commissioned to do. And sometimes God commissions us through the very practical and physical things of this, like doctors to make people well, hands to feed people. And sometimes we can't fix it. But we can always recognize it and press back against evil. Shepherd people, who Jesus mainly describes as wearied and harassed. Not necessarily the situations they're facing, but the overall sort of way that it leaves them, despairing and despondent. Because all of our encounters with all of these bad things that fall short of the glory of God, all the things that the Piandri are doing, all the things that Jesus sends out his disciples to do, tear us down and make us weary every single day. And in that, no judgment, because that's not the point. They're at least bad, if not evil. And so in response, Jesus sends out the shepherds, just as the folks in Malagasy Lutheran Church do, and I would say just as we should as well. They go out into the world and they find people on the road. And they find what's wrong with them, and they do their best to fix it. But before they do that, what is Jesus' first instruction to them? You missed it. Before he gives that laundry list of things they're supposed to fix, what does he tell them to do? Proclaim the good news. A good news that's bigger than any of these things. because these things might not go away or end the way we wish. A good news that can't bring total healing or total comfort even, but a good news that can pull us away from being so wearied, so worrisome, and so harassed by the troubles of this life. Everyone is called to be a shepherd. And if you want to point out to the last part of the gospel, part of the reason I picked the long version is Jesus mentions this thing about shaking the dust off your shoes if people don't receive you in the towns and in their homes. That's talking about the hospitality expectation of God's people, but if you notice, it also comes after what they're commissioned to do on the road. Shepherds care for the sheep, and sometimes the sheep get stuck because of bad luck, and sometimes the sheep get stuck because they put their head through something they can't get it back out of again. And the shepherd does what he can to fix it, to relieve it, to make one whole. We are commissioned to be shepherds. So here's what I want you to do. And I want you to draw from either category. The category that's either morally bad, like that big S sin, I did something wrong and it bothers me, or something that has no sort of consequence on your actions, or your actions had no consequence on it. I want to think about something right now for you in your head that leaves you right now wearied and worrisome and harassed, that is not good, that falls short of the glory of God in your life. Can you think of something? I can. Ooh, not that one. That one's real bad. Okay. Tone it back a little. We all have this. Now, here's the super uncomfortable part. Pick a partner. Pick a partner. And I want you to shepherd them. And here's what I want you to do. I want you to do the first thing Jesus tells the shepherds to go out and do. And tell them that whatever is on their mind, in their hearts, whatever is churning their guts that falls short of the glory of God, God is bigger than it. And proclaim the good news. Go ahead. And if you can do that here, you can do it for the whole world. If you can do that here, you can bring the good that presses back against the bad. If you can do that here, then maybe you're just called, I truly believe, to go be a shepherd out there. Tell the people. Find them in this. Find them in this. And do exactly what Jesus says. And it'll do more than you ever could possibly imagine. Amen.